Okay. Okay. We could start, and when people come, it will be good. Okay. Thank you, Andy. I just want to tell everyone, I started to tell you, that Baruch Hashem, there are many facets in my life, and I have a lady who is in labor right now. I don't have to be there yet. But I told her that if she really needs me, she can call anytime, and I might have to go. In fact, I didn't know how she's going to be doing, and a few years ago, we recorded one of these giving over stories, and I asked my son to please send the link to me in case I had to have that showing you what to, so anyway, I didn't have to, but she's not ready. So please take and enjoy yourselves. Just want to say that I'm so grateful for the gift that Hashem is, first of all, giving all of us, and me particularly, because I'm giving this story over, that we're all in Eretz Israel, in Yerushalayim, Ir HaKodesh, and I hope that all of us, even by just being here, we're doing whatever we need to do in our lifetime, and do the work of our soul. So really, I'm very aware of that a lot, and I'm glad to have this kind of life that Hashem has put me into so far. Many of you know that I was born in Hungary during the war, during the Shoah, in Budapest, and Baruch Hashem, my parents, separate. They were in separate places. Both of them were able to make it through the war, and I was with my mother actually in Budapest. And my father was in a slave labor camp for a few years. In fact, he was drafted when my mother was expecting me, and the next time that I saw him was when I was about 13 months old. But he made it, and but it actually in my father's family, only he and his younger brother were able to live through the war and live until, Baruch Hashem, a very nice age in their 90s. So, and they really were people who were very positive, very much into using every moment of their lives to do something beautiful, do something constructive, useful, and mamash besimcha. I really learned from my father to be besimcha, with anything that I was doing, and I wasn't so happy doing a lot of times what he thought I should. And really, many times I remember I was a little bit not welcoming the opportunity to be helpful. And but I really learned that it is true, that whatever we're doing is essential for our lives and everybody else's life. Otherwise, it wouldn't be happening. So I just also want to say that after my father came back from slave labor camp, and not many people made it compared to how many people went. And I know that my father really, really wanted to come to Eretz Israel, but he never really lived here after all. But we continued to live in Hungary until 1956, and I'm sure that you know a little bit of history, that after Hungary was liberated by the Russians, which was kind of a joke because the Russians were just as vicious. They weren't only against Yidden, particularly like the Nazis, but during the communist regime, people were disappearing all the time, and you never knew who's going to tell on you for what, whether it was a made up story or not. But I mean, I was a little girl, but really, I do remember. Hello, shalom. Would you like to come here? Okay, so that's the other way. Hi. Um, so I was going to say that the communist ruled country was a pretty fearful and depressing possibility of living. Benjamin, do you want to sit over here, please? Thank you. We might have to love each other a little more so everybody could fit in. There's space here too, you know.
Boy space or girl space?
Hmm?
Is that boy space or girl space?
Everybody's welcome. So I just remember going to school in Hungary. I just went for 5 grades and started 6th grade when the revolution broke out in 1956. But it was even in school. Even in school, it was not a happy place. When we went to America, I realized how we were always fearful and the lachats. What's wrong?
Under pressure?
Hmm?
Under pressure?
Yes, under pressure, because the theory of communism was, and that was the theory, that everyone had to be working for the good of everyone, and it's a good thing. It really is, uh, to have Ahavas Yisrael, which is what the Torah is helping us to accomplish. But it's really not under such strict rule that if you don't do it, or if you don't accomplish a certain amount of work that day, they'll take you away. I mean, it wasn't uncommon for such things. Anyway, but I still loved being a a child, and we, because my parents were very positive, very uh, hopeful, and working a lot to have as beautiful a life as we could possibly have in Hungary. And so we always went to the country, to the Danube actually, uh, during the summers, and then later on, my father built a little house in the mountains, and that's where I used to roam around, which was wonderful. Anyway, one fine day, October 22nd, 1956, I was going home from piano lesson, actually, and just have this on ring if in case my lady calls, but I think I could hear it even if I turn the ringer off. Anyway, so yes, I was coming home from, going home from piano lesson, and I saw hundreds and hundreds of people on the street, and they were all shouting something about a revolution, and about squashing the communist government, and it was kind of surprising and new. Not too many people knew about it, except the people who organized this revolt. And I went home to tell my mother that there's a revolution on outside, and she said, "What? You know, like really?" It was unimaginable to be able to do such a thing. But she turned the radio on, and yes, it was true that mostly, I think, university students got together and just wanted no more of the communist government anymore, the communist ruling. So uh, there was a lot of fighting. I had no idea where they could have gotten ammunition. Like, I don't know, but I guess when something is really needed, people obtain it. And there really was a lot of fighting, and the government was thrown out, and a new government, a free Hungarian government, was established right away. And Hungary was a free country for about 7 days when the Russians came in with heavy artillery, and really thousands of people were killed during these I guess a couple months, but mostly the first few weeks. Uh, Buildings were shot out, and it was already November, and it was cold, it was getting to be winter, and my aunt with her two children actually came to stay with us because their building they was shot at, and there were no windows that were intact, and really there was a lot of fighting. Once when my aunt came with the little children, all of a sudden they had ear infections, and we called the doctor, and the doctor said, "I'm so sorry, but I can't come. My son was just killed." So, like I'm not telling you anything new because we're in the midst of a war here. So, but it was pretty new to all of us at that time over there. So during those days when Hungary was a free country, a lot of people all of a sudden left, because during communism, it was really pretty, I mean, it was impossible to leave the country. First of all, it was almost impossible to even move from one apartment to another without, you had to have permission to do anything. And but when Hungary became a free country, there are more seats up here if you'd like to push through. And there are, I think, stools and other means of seats. So during that time, when Hungary was a free country, thousands and thousands of people all of a sudden left. But when the Russians came in and took over the country again, still people thought, wow, we also want to leave. But at that time already, it was definitely illegal to leave, and quite dangerous to make the journey from Hungary to Austria, because Austria was the only free country that was bordering Hungary. The other bordering countries were Russia and Czechoslovakia and Romania, and so there was no sense of going to any other country except Austria. And all of a sudden, people who lived close to the Austrian border became tour guides for some money, of course. They were glad to assist people in their journey, and actually it was a balagan, but now we have cell phones and we could call people, we could call each other, but definitely at that time, not even everyone in the country had telephones. First of all, actually, sometimes funny things happened. We happened to have a phone in our apartment, but many people in our apartment building didn't. So we kind of ran a public phone, so to speak. And once a really funny thing happened. A man called, and my father picked up the phone, and the man was asking to talk with Agi. And I had a sister whose name was Agi. She was a little girl, like, I don't know, she was 8 years old, 7 years old. No, at that time she was less. She was like, I don't know, 5. Anyway, so my father thinks, what is this man calling my daughter? Was a little girl, until the conversation kind of jibed, and my father figured out that the phone call wasn't for his like 5-year-old daughter, but our neighbor who lived on the same floor we did. This man was her boyfriend, and he wanted to talk with her. But so I'm just telling you, life in Hungary, just very, very minor things I'm touching on. So, as I said, some of these people, would you like to come in? I think there's probably more space. And if you want to come all the way up here, there are more stools to sit on. So, Mamash, people didn't know from one moment to another that they will have a chance to leave. Just you had to have the will to listen to news, what people were saying. And I remember one morning when one of my aunts asked my father do something for her and bring it to him to her after his work was finished, and he went there just to find out from the neighbor, my aunt's neighbor, that my aunt and her family and extended family, they left on a truck. It was just like that, like no planning, nothing. If you heard that it was possible to leave, then people left, and it wasn't like there was any kind of guarantee that you could even leave from the city or get to the border or anything, because by then there were police and soldiers guarding the route, and they were trying to catch people from escaping, and it could cost your life, which it did to many people. But that will to have a better life, people were ready to take risks. They were ready to give up their life for something better, if it was at all possible. So that's what was going on. And in my family, my aunt, she was single at the time. She was the cool cat of the family, so she left, and somehow we did hear that she was able to make it. You know, it's so funny now that I'm sitting here in front of a computer and my phone is here, et cetera, et cetera. Like, we're so equipped to be able to communicate, but to communicate without all of this was going. There's no stopping ingenuity of people. And so yes, so she left, but there were several of us in the family. I had two aunts, on my mother's side, and my grandmother. Baruch Hashem, they were on their way on a death march, actually, during the war, and they were liberated. So they came back. So Baruch Hashem, my mother had her two sisters and her mother, who made it through the war. And as I mentioned before, my father's younger brother also, after being in Siberia for 5 years, he was able to come back from the war. And I definitely remember being, I don't know, like 2.5 years old. I used to go with my parents to the train station, the main train station that was coming from the east, bringing people who were able to stay alive after the war. And we used to go like every day, trying to see if maybe somebody my father knew, or my mother. And Baruch Hashem, a miracle happened one day. My uncle was on one of those trains. Miracles are constantly happening. They happened before, they're happening now, and they'll continue happening when Hashem is in control. So anyway, yes, I mentioned that my other aunt and her family and extended family, they also were able to secure some kind of truck where they were covered by hay and I don't know what else, and a tarp for feeding animals. in the farms. That's what they were delivering, and Baruch Hashem, nobody suspected that, and tried to go with a pitchfork or something like that, and they accepted the driver's alibi. So they, Baruch Hashem, were able to also make it. And one day, um, my father heard that the Hungarian government was calling in men into the army, and he contacted his brother, and somehow somebody turned up for them to have that person to be their guide. I'm just telling you that from one minute to another, you went on the street. If somebody you may have known, like could tell you, like go this way and that way, and you'll find a person who looks like this and that, and if you want to leave, he's ready to take you. And yes, so being in slave labor camp and other kind of terrible places, including, as I mentioned before, my uncle being in Siberia for 5 years. They wanted nothing more to do with any kind of army, and of course, they went. With my uncle went with his family, and actually his mother-in-law, the brave soul, she accompanied them to the border. And because she had a very ill husband, she made her way back to Budapest. And actually, it was kind of unusual that my father left my mother and my sister and I and my grandmother behind. But there was no way that we could go with this group, and they needed to leave Hungary. The men needed to leave Hungary very quickly because they really were not wanting to be kept in Hungary in captivity. So Baruch Hashem, the only people who were left from my immediate family were my grandmother, my mother's mother, who actually, during the war, we were together for some time in the ghetto, and then somehow, I don't know if I ever asked my mother, and I have to say that in some families, they talked about things that happened to them during the war, but in our family, that was not really the custom. Anything that had to do with pain, we tried not to talk about. So a lot of things I don't know. And actually, my parents never really sat down with my sister and I to tell us anything that happened and that they went through. But sometimes we overheard. Thank you. When my parents got together with friends, even if they were talking about, a glass of water, cup of water, they would always end up with talking about the war, where they were, which month, which year, which day, and how they suffered in each of these places, and who was never frozen to death or killed, or I don't know, whatever. So we overheard some things sometimes, but actually, you probably heard of Steven Spielberg. So my parents were interviewed by the Spielberg Foundation, and that's when they felt like, okay, so now it's out, so we could talk a little bit. But it really still was not our custom to talk about anything that was painful. So there we were, my mother and my 8-year-old sister, and I was 12. We had no idea what's going to happen, if we will also be able to leave. But one day, there was a knock on our door, and these two men in railroad uniform were at the door, and they said that they were sent by my aunts through the grapevine from Vienna, and they came to also take us. So first, of course, my mother had to make sure that these people are telling the truth, because who knew whether they were or not. Anyway, so Baruch Hashem, they passed the test, and but they said that it would be too dangerous because it would be too slow for them to take an older lady and 2 little children. So they said that we have to decide who's going to go first, whether it's going to be my grandmother or my mother and my sister and I. And of course, definitely my mother did not want to leave her mother. So she went. And Baruch Hashem, she also made it. And a few days later, the men came back and instructed us that we should meet on December 24th at the railroad at the railroad station that was going toward Austria to the west, but through Hungary, because Budapest, if you know where Budapest is in Hungary, is in the middle of the country. So we had to travel by railroad with their instructions. But of course, we also had to pay them. And there was a young woman who lived in an apartment building who was eyeing our baby grand piano for years. And she told my mother that any time she needs to sell this piano, she should be told. and my mother thought, aha, so this is where we're going to get our money from. She made up this story that in our house in the mountain, in the country, we're having a big problem that the pipes burst, and it's going to cost a lot of money to repair, and Mama needs to sell the piano because of it. So this young lady didn't really care about what our problem was, but she really wanted the piano. So Baruch Hashem, we were able to finance our trip like that, and actually to be cautious, because all this had to be done in secret. It wasn't like even your trusted neighbor or friend, whatever, whoever, really could not be trusted with this information that, oh, we're going to go, nothing. However, because of necessity, my mother took us, my sister and I, to her cousin's house and his family's the night before that we were supposed to leave. And I have to say that that cousin was actually in jail when the revolution started because he was the head of the radio in Hungary, and he was arrested, um, but then I don't know whatever happened with him. He got out of jail. This was like a common thing, you were in jail, you were ready to, be shipped out to Siberia, I don't know what, or some dungeon, and then all of a sudden, I don't know, some miracle happened that you were able to get out. Anyway, so yes, we went, my sister and I went to this cousin's house, and the night before. So when my mother was going to go to the country to have the plumbing fixed early in the morning, it wouldn't be suspicious looking for us to go all together. So hi, welcome. There are more stools there. I have to tell you that I still remember the fireplace going because I really couldn't sleep. It was kind of very exciting to be going. We've never done such a thing before. And yes, we went to there are there more chairs here?
It's one more.
Yeah, and more stools. I don't know. We have more spaces. I don't know if you want to come. Okay, okay. So we met up with the two men who were going to be our guides, and since they worked for the railroad, they knew the ins and outs, and I guess they must have had some helpers that they were teaming up with because I mean from the railroad who were working, and they told us that we should sit in the first car right after the engine because the tochlit was that when the train pulled out far enough from the tachana, the station, far enough that it wouldn't be detected easily, that the train stopped. My mother was supposed to run from the car to the engine, which is where she was hiding while we were on the train. So it was a little bit tricky. If you'd like to come over here, there are some chairs here. It was a little bit tricky. It was on December 24th, as it is today, 68 years ago. And in Hungary, it snows. And there was snow on the ground. It wasn't just, like Hashem over here, if it snows, it's like a little bit. But over there's a good amount of snow that falls. And it wasn't easy in an untrodden area for my mother to run in the deep snow. But Baruch Hashem, she made it, and so my sister and I were left on the train by ourselves, and my mother, since it was the big Gaisha holiday coming up, she told us that if somebody asks us where we're going, that we should tell these people that we're going to relatives for the holiday. And I just want to backtrack just a little bit. When my mother told us that we're leaving, my sister and I started packing, and we went to our little toy closet, which, if I remember it, it was like this small. It was probably smaller. Anyway, but my mother told us that we can't take anything because if you're escaping, you can't take anything with you. And my sister started crying. She said, how can a mother leave her baby and I have to take my doll? And so my mother had Rachmanis on her, and she let my sister take her doll. And then I thought, okay, if she's taking something, I want to take something also. And my most precious possession was a set of color pencils. So I still have the box, but I don't have the pencils anymore. I guess I must have used them up. But really the only other thing, only other things that we were able to take was my mother was the best dressmaker in the whole entire universe. So she took really, she would sew a button on and it would become a creation. But so she took a spool of thread and a thimble and a pair of small scissors and a needle. And she also took an etching that my father gave her when he came back from the war. And actually, I have it upstairs. And one other thing was the only thing that she had from before the war. It was a comforter that she was able to roll into a small little bundle, and all that was put in, all those items, not the doll. My sister had to carry her doll. So so anyway, we had this little box full of things, and I think that my mother, for snacks, she packed some walnuts and some sugar cubes. I don't know if we took anything else with us. So anyway, and also since it was the big holiday coming up, my mother taught us that if somebody asks my sister and I, where did you get this pretty wonderful, beautiful doll? Because actually it is a very beautiful doll, and my niece still has it, who lives in San Francisco. My mother sewed the doll a red jacket with pleated skirt and a hat, etc., etc. And it had we had bought the doll a pair of red lacquer shoes, which is significant. I just want to tell you. Anyway, so she taught us that if somebody asks, where did you get this doll? We have to tell them that little JC brought it, because in Hungary, that's, like little JC brings the presents, not Santa Claus. Like Santa Claus Day was a separate day for all children on December 6th in many European countries. But this Geisha holiday is a very religious holiday. So we had mamish nothing to do with it. And really, when my mother told us this, we thought maybe our teeth will fall out if we have to say it. Yeah. But Baruch Hashem, nobody asked us, and nobody really said anything, although they were kind of eyeing us because the way we were dressed were not exactly, like peasantish. And, the where we were going. So anyway, sometimes during the day, it took a whole day to get from Budapest to the end of the line, and of course by like even 4 o'clock it was pitch dark. So it took the whole day for us to travel, and a few times our guides came to check on us, and yes, they were soldiers and police who were coming off and on during the day to check if there's anyone they need to catch. So Baruch Hashem, they didn't bother us, and when we were nearing the end of the line, I mean, there were cities where we stopped in between one, the beginning and the end of the trip. But at the end, our guides told us that we should get off and go behind a certain building, and they'll direct our mother to that place also, because she couldn't get off at the last stop. She needed to go where they park the engine, and then meet us. So Baruch Hashem, we reunited. But there was a little glitch in the trip, because we were supposed to continue from there going across the border. But our guides were asking us if we would please do them a favor, that it's their holiday. Could we go to the next night instead, and we could sleep at one of their houses, because they're going to go sleep where their families were. So yes, we agreed. We didn't have a choice either. I don't know what they would have said, if or what they would have done if we would have said no, we want to go now. But the truth is that we were pretty tired anyway. So so we went to one of the men's apartment, which was, they must have been so poor, really. It was a basement apartment, and they hardly had anything there. He had I think 2 children and a wife, and my mother just looked in the kitchen, which was probably, like, if I remember, it was small. It was really small. She looked in the drawer, and she saw a couple of forks and a knife or so, and a few spoons, etc., etc. They were really, really, really poor. And so anyway, we spent the night there, and the people who lived in the main part of the house, they were very nice. They invited us for the dinner. Lunch, actually, their holiday lunch. And we thought, Gavalt, what are we going to do now? And they were really, really very nice and very hospitable. And since we were hungry, because we didn't really have food with us, and I think that we must have had a baked potato, or I don't know, something like that, and forget about anything that had to do with a salad, because in Hungary during the winter there was no such thing as a fresh salad, because root vegetables were put away for the winter, and I remember my mother had a box in our kitchen with some sand, and that's where she used to store the root vegetables like potatoes and carrots and parsley and parsnips and things like that. And actually during the summers she used to make jars and jars of pickles and sauerkraut and cherries, even in rum, and jars of all kinds of jams and whatever. And then we went to America and she retired from that. But that's okay. Anyway, so we had something to eat, but they were cajoling us to have some chicken soup, but their chicken soup smelled nothing like my mother's chicken soup at all. So we didn't have any. Anyway, so as soon as it got really dark, the two men came and told us that it's time to go. So again, I just want to emphasize that it was at the end of December 24th, but by the time we got across the border, it was December 25th. We they knew the terrain, they knew which way to go, and I have to say that Hungary, the border is not like a clear cut straight line, and it was jagged, and we heard terrible stories where people went out of Hungary, but then there's a oh okay, she has a plate. There is what did I even say? Yeah, we heard, yes, that some people went out of Hungary and then went back or tried to go back, and they were caught on the road, and all kinds of scenarios. Baruch Hashem, these people really knew where to go and which way to go. And for a while, I remember going in the railroad ditch, and there were searchlights. And any time, I mean, I wasn't so tall. I'm not so tall either now, but I was shorter then. But the adults definitely had to duck every time the searchlight came on, and that was like every couple of minutes until it really went around. So and I remember the snow was pretty deep, and after there was no more possibility of going in the railroad ditch, we went through those. I don't remember of anything going through forests at all, but fields and fields, and there too we had to duck or lie down or something when searchlights were coming on. And we were walking and walking for I don't know, like 2.5 hours at least, something like that, in snow, in deep snow. And at some point, one of the men showed us that in the distance we could see lights, and they said that that's already Austria. And we were really grateful to see that light. But we still had to cross a frozen lake. And I have to tell you that was the only time when I was scared, because I thought, how did we know that it was so, the ice was so thick on it that it would support our weight? So not that it was so heavy, but we kind of pushed the box that we had, in front of us. It really wasn't heavy, but we were walking like ducks, not putting pressure on one spot, one space, and so as to use our body weight in equally on two sides, and I don't know how long it took, because it was quite a large lake. Could have taken, I don't know, an hour. I'm not sure exactly, but we did make it, Baruch Hashem, and we were looking for that light, all like zooming in on that light, and it happened to be either a restaurant or an inn or something like that, because they were really, really, really nice, and they saw when we went in what the score was, and they peeled our frozen outer garments off. We definitely didn't have what is it? Anyway, some Andy Bauer or something like that, whatever. Huh? Garments that one can buy these days. But really, kind of three layers of clothes that we had, that definitely the first layer was like iced up. Anyway, we were able to peel those garments off, and I have to tell you that I still remember that there was a jukebox there, and it was so fascinating. I had never seen such a thing, and the little 45s were flipping down and then playing, etc., etc. And they gave us something to eat, and it was in the middle of the night already. And since that village, they had received a lot of other people who escaped, refugees. They had set up the schoolhouse to a center to house people, and we went in. It was in the center of town, and they had one large room where they had mattresses. I guess it was, I don't know if it was a one room school. I don't know what it was, but they made us space near the heater, the iron, the iron heater. They found some more mattresses for my sister and my mother and I, and since we were the last ones to arrive, they made sure that we could thaw out easier, closer to the source of the heat. And so Baruch Hashem, it was unimaginable, Hodul Hashem Kitov, feeling to be able to be in such a space, such a place. And there were, I don't know, a few dozen other people there. And my mother had some kind of a zettel that her sister was to be found somewhere in Austria, and we had to make our way to contact our relatives who were already there. And I have to say that people in Austria were so kind and giving. People recognized, like that we must be one of the people who escaped. And mamash, they reached into their purse and took out, I don't know, oranges and chocolate and I don't know, and even money, but we didn't have any shillings. We had no way of getting any Austrian money. And actually, we had to take a bus and a train and this and that, and really, we were welcomed. We didn't have to pay for the transportation, and really, they went all out. These people to help us and welcome us to freedom. Just to find out that where my mother thought her sister was, she wasn't there anymore. But there were people who said, you know what, we should go to Vienna because that's where most people went. And we made our way to Vienna. And yes, there were a lot of Hungarians walking on the street in Vienna. And there was a joke that was going around that, you know, if you had just a little bit of brain, you would still be in Hungary. And then I said, what? Yeah, if you have a little bit more, you're here. It doesn't translate so well. In Hungarian, everybody was cracking up, but whatever. So anyway, we did find our relatives, and we were all put up in hotels like the refugees that we know of these days in Eretz Israel. Sometimes it's not so great when history repeats itself or actually facsimilate. Anyway, we did find our relatives, and also we found out that my uncle and my father, in the meantime, also were put in jail because somebody accused them of being communists. And Austria did not want any communists. But it absolutely wasn't true. They went through a lot of trials and tribulations for them not to be in the Communist Party. And it wasn't easy. They excelled in their occupation, which was they were window trimmers. Does anybody know what that means? You know, they used to dress windows for stores. They didn't have a computerized, you know, like images that they have like over here on Agrippus at this men's clothing store. Instead of putting out real clothes, they have slides showing whatever they have inside the stores. But anyway, my father and his brother were top artists in this field, which was a very well thought about occupation. They were artists, and what their responsibility was really to put out merchandise in windows, because that was the main advertising for stores. So if a store had attractive windows, then people went in to find out what they had in the stores. Anyway, but so Baruch Hashem, by the time we reunited, my father and brother were out of jail, etc., etc., and my relatives already knew that at the United States sponsored free kitchen, is that what it's called? They had breakfast, lunch, and dinner. They were serving, and so that's where we had our food, and I want to say that Baruch Hashem, because my mother had two brothers in America before the war. We had kind of protectia, and my mother wanted to go to America. My father really wanted to come to Eretz Israel, but I guess my mother won out. Baruch Hashem, I got to learn English. So anyway, we didn't spend more than 2 weeks in Vienna, and some people were there for years trying to get out and go to some kind of other location that they were wishing for. And if you know who Richard Nixon was, he was vice president of the United States at the time, and he was sent by the U.S. to welcome refugees, freedom fighters, we were called. And one of those times when my parents were taking care of the paperwork, Richard Nixon and his wife were at the embassy also, and he asked Richard Nixon asked my father, "Are you happy that you're going to America?" And my father said, "Yes, I'm very, very happy, but I'm sad because the permit was only given to blood relatives, meaning to say my aunts, my grandmother, and my mother, but my uncle, my father's brother, was not included." So my father said, I'm not happy because my brother is not able to come, but if you would help us with this, I'd really, really appreciate it. And guess what? Nixon made sure that my uncle and his family were also able to come, and we didn't even know that this was going on, because we started going toward the boat to Germany, Bremerhaven, as a family, and we were going to go to America with a certain boat. We didn't know what was happening with my uncle and family, and guess what? When we got on the boat, and we went to the cafeteria, my uncle was the one who was serving the food. It was like, wow, mamish, a huge, wonderful surprise. But I also want to point out that not everyone who came out of Hungary was an upstanding citizen. Actually, a lot of Nazis also were able to escape. And when we were going from Vienna to the seaport, we stopped in Salzburg, and somehow some Nazis got a hold of some knives, because we spent the night at some army camp or something like that, and they were able to get some knives in the kitchen, and they were shouting of, you know, Jews, you're not going to make it to America if we have our say so. And my sister and I were playing downstairs in the snow, and my mother saw that these guys were coming, and told us to get into the house, the building, like right away. I have no idea what happened to those people. But Baruch Hashem, we did get on the boat, and it took us. It was already February by the time we were on the boat. It was an old Navy ship, and we were definitely the guests of America, and it wasn't a luxury liner. We were sleeping on bunks, like the sailors, like in the Army or Navy, whatever. Except I know that some older people, like my grandmother and some other older people, were able to go to like rooms. Otherwise, they were like large spaces where a lot of us were sleeping. It took us about 11 days to cross the ocean. We were told that because there was a storm in the middle of the Atlantic, we had to go around it, so that made the trip a bit longer. But one fine morning, there was an announcement that if anyone wants to see the Statue of Liberty, we could go up on the deck, and it was still very, very dark, early morning, and 1,500 freedom fighters went up on the deck. I want to tell you something kind of funny. Wherever we went, we were given these, I don't know, a lot of you could possibly remember, but airlines used to have these blue flight bags with their emblem on it, like TWA or Delta or whatever it was. And we, as refugees, we received wherever we went some toiletries, like soap, toothbrush, toothpaste, etc., etc. And that's what the contents of these bags were. They had written on these bags, United States SKP program. Anyway, just put that in your pocket. So we did get to Brooklyn Harbor, but before that, since it was early in the morning, so we were on the deck, and I remember this long train that I thought was a long train, headlights or lights. I thought that it was a train, but if you know, in New York on FDR, it was people going to work at that time, and of course, I never thought that it was cars, like headlights of cars. I thought it was a very long train. Anyway, then it got a little lighter, and we realized that it was cars. So we were transported to a military camp in New Jersey, and from there we spent a few days there. And Baruch Hashem, really, wherever we went, we were given clothes and whatever, and of course food. And I remember the men in our barracks, they got pajamas, and of course we didn't speak English. I mean, we didn't know a word of English actually, but some people knew okay. And so the men put on their pajamas, and they were going from one person to another, okay, like greeting each other. Anyway, so Baruch Hashem, I have all these like pictures in my head, remembering, and we were going to Miami and to Los Angeles as our family was split up. actually, because the two brothers didn't know about the refugees, what kind of people they were. And they were cautious about having all of us in one city. So my grandmother and two aunts and families went to Los Angeles, and my uncle, my father's brother and family, and our family, we went to Miami. Um, and when we were going toward the airport, we were still needing to check in at this hotel motel, which my parents thought it was like a joke. They thought that they knew the word hotel, but they didn't know the word motel. So they thought, okay, it's a like play on words. Anyway, so as we were waiting to be taken to the airport, my mother comes out of the bathroom with her tears rolling down her face, and she said, "Even if you don't have to go to the bathroom, please go. They have pink tiles on the walls," which was very impressive. And actually, another time when we were in New Jersey at that military camp, Camp Kilmer, we, as I mentioned before, that we were given clothes, et cetera, and my sister and I, we got some new shoes, and even though it was February and it was snowy, we insisted that we wanted to wear those shoes. And there was some kind of a greengrocer close to this military camp, and they had vegetables, fresh vegetables like tomatoes and green pepper and I don't know, whatever they sell. And again, my mother's, tears were rolling down her face, like in America, they have vegetables, fresh vegetables during the winter. So anyway, we had the gift of traveling by plane from New York to Miami. And we saw people who were um, getting off the airplane with these stuffed alligators. At that time, you could still, get these little, like this size baby alligators that were stuffed. And I remember they were really like suntanned. It was February, but it was, like Miami weather. Anyway, so we got on the airplane, and Baruch Hashem, we were welcomed by my mother's brother. And on the way to the hotel, I have to also say that Jayas or Hayas was also helping us to get to our destination. And I think that they were the ones who arranged our hotel rooms. But on the way to the hotel, my uncle, alav hashalom, a really nice man, but he pointed out that on top of the municipality's building is a jail, and if we don't, behave, they will put us there. And years later, when my sister was graduating from medical school, with tears in his eyes, he apologized for saying such a thing, that he didn't know that the refugees were people who will, hopefully make a difference in other people's lives. And so anyway, we stayed in Miami, and I left Miami in 1970, but my parents kept living in Miami, and Mamash Baruch Hashem, they were very, very ambitious people. really. I don't even know how they, like, we didn't have any money, but they knew how to manage the little that they had with utmost hakma. And my father was able to buy, of course, a used car um, in Miami, just not so long after, I mean, a few months at least, after we got there. And we were told that if you listen to the radio, your English is going to improve. And actually, my parents went to what? It's my hello, Max. Yes,
Hey,
yes. I'm just finishing. What's happening?
okay, she's just in a lot of pain, and they keep asking her if she wants to do an epidural, and she keeps saying she wants to do a water birth. The point of the water birth is to make it smoother, and she's in so much pain. Just the epidural, like that's what I'm thinking.
Okay, I tell you what. Hold off, okay, if you can. And I'll be there sooner than later, okay? And Mom is just finishing in a few minutes, okay? Okay,
See you soon.
okay. Thank you. I'll call you back.
Okay.
I'm in the middle of a birth, actually. So I just want to say that, yes, we were told that if we listen to the radio, we will learn English faster. And of course, we didn't know what they were saying on the radio, but they kept saying at this certain station, and you know how it is, like WCBS or I don't know what. So they were saying WSKP, and every time they said SKP, we thought that they were talking about us because of the United States SKP program that was written on our bag, but it was actually their initials for yeah. So all kinds of things, learning English and living in America. I have to be grateful, and I am grateful for our lives there. But Baruch Hashem, Baruch Hashem, we're all here. So, as you heard, I kind of have to go. But please, there's, I don't know, please eat all the food because I won't. I'm going to this birth, and B'Shah Tova. I was at the birth of a lot of this baby's cousins. Yeah, older cousins. So this is the newest one that's coming up in this family. And thank you for coming and letting me give over. A snip of my life. What?
We're very blessed to have you here.
Well, I am very blessed. I feel really, really blessed by everyone, really being in my life. I don't know, my life would be very, very different from what is being given to me. Actually, I found out just day before yesterday, that I was at this young lady's birth also. We met on Rosh Chodesh. She came to the Rosh Chodesh event that we had with the women, and we started talking, and I was cajoling her to come to some of the classes here, and Baruch Hashem, she came to our free Hanukkah event, and at that time she told me that she spoke with her mother, and her mother told her that I was with her when she was born. So Baruch Hashem for Mamish, Hashem opening doors for all of us. And no words. I really, really, really can't express in words how grateful I am that Hashem is mamish pushing us to the next level that this creation has to be. And even though it's not easy, but one of the things that I really wanted to point out by telling the story, that I am just so grateful that Hashem has given me all these trials and challenges in my life, and I just really want to use it for doing something useful and hopefully good for others also. So yes.
Thank you. We get moving to the house.
Yeah, I just want to say that because I'm going to this birth, I'm not going to be going to Gitti Porgis's, but if somebody wants to use my ticket, one person, you want to use it?
Planning to go anyway.
Please go, okay? So it's 7 Yehuda Maccabi
Right.
in, okay? And tell her that I didn't make it again this time. I don't know if they have more tickets there or not. It's a small space, but if anybody's interested, I don't know, maybe you could push yourself in. I don't know. It's for women. Okay? Yeah. Okay. So I hope to see you soon next time. And Freilich Hanukkah to everyone. And keep shining.
Amen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody on the screen.
Everything like this. The cheating is so cute.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
I met this week this young woman.
Our technical staff is going to close the computer.
So many good people live there.
To everybody. Love
Her name
you.
is Avital.
Photo.
She's
Zaygebesh.
Israeli. Just with 30-year-old went on this massage from all different parts of the.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
All different
Listen,
types of
please.
people went on this like a hike and
This has to
there
be
was all different
cool. So
conversations open.
wait.
She said she was from Japan, and I was like,